The murder of Charlie Kirk is an American tragedy. Charlie Kirk was murdered while engaging in one of our most sacred and cherished American rights, the bedrock of our democratic republic, the free exchange of ideas in a search for truth, understanding, and a more perfect union. It is also an offense against the state and to the peace and enjoyment of the people of Utah and of all those who visit here. But Charlie Kirk's murder also strikes a more personal and intimate chord. Charlie Kirk was first and foremost a husband and a father to two beautiful young children. He was a son, he was a brother, and a friend. Like all murders, the senseless and needless taking of Charlie Kirk's life has shattered the lives of those he loved and those who loved him. To Charlie's wife, Erica, his two young children, his parents, his family, and his friends, I express my sincere condolences and offer my heartfelt prayers on your behalf.
On the evening of September 10th, 2025, the Sorensen Student Center at Utah Valley University was filled with anticipation. Students, supporters, and curious onlookers gathered to hear one of the most recognizable conservative figures in America. Charlie Kirk had built a reputation as a fiery speaker and a sharp political commentator, known for sparking debate wherever he went. But before the night was over, his name would make headlines for an entirely different reason. As the event began, no one imagined it would end in tragedy. Shots suddenly rang out, piercing the air and sending the crowd scrambling for safety. In a matter of seconds, the room that had been buzzing with energy was silenced by fear. On the stage lay Charlie Kirk, mortally wounded. The 31-year-old activist's life had ended in an instant, right in front of those who had come to hear his words. The alleged gunman was quickly identified: Tyler Robinson, a 22-year-old local student. He wasn't an outsider. He wasn't a shadowy figure hiding in the background. He was a young man from Orem, raised in a Latter-day Saints family, with no violent history in public view. Yet investigators would uncover a chilling digital trail: messages to friends, confessions in group chats, and DNA evidence on the weapon that pointed directly to him. The irony was stark. Kirk had spent years warning about polarization, hatred, and the dangers of cultural warfare. In the end, his own life was claimed in an act of violence born from those very forces. But to understand how a quiet student became the central figure in one of the most shocking political killings in recent U.S. history, how private resentment turned into public tragedy, and why prosecutors in Utah are now pursuing the death penalty, we have to go back. Back to the small community of Orem. Back to the conversations and confessions that would only be uncovered after the gunfire. If you're drawn to stories of justice, betrayal, and the people who reach a point of no return, make sure to subscribe to No Way Out. This is where true crime meets truth. Real cases, real consequences. Tyler James Robinson grew up in Washington, Utah, a quiet suburb of St. George. Born in 2003, Tyler was the eldest of three brothers in what neighbors described as a typical middle-class family. His father operated a successful granite countertop business, while his mother worked as a licensed social worker, both pillars of their close-knit community. The Robinson household appeared to embody stability and success. Tyler's parents, both registered Republicans, had been married for over 2 decades and were active members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Their home, a 6-bedroom house in a well-maintained neighborhood, reflected their financial comfort and commitment to providing opportunities for their children. From an early age, Tyler displayed exceptional academic abilities that set him apart from his peers. His mother frequently posted on social media about his achievements, celebrating his 4.0 GPA throughout middle school and his remarkable performance on standardized tests. In August 2020, she shared a photo of Tyler beaming alongside his ACT scorecard, which showed he had achieved a 34 out of 36, placing him in the 99th percentile nationally. The Robinson family enjoyed an active outdoor lifestyle that reflected their Utah surroundings. Social media posts showed them fishing, boating, riding ATVs through desert landscapes, and taking family vacations to destinations like Disneyland, Hawaii, the Caribbean, and Alaska. These trips captured moments of apparent family harmony and shared experiences that painted a picture of a loving, supportive household. Tyler's academic success culminated in his acceptance to Utah State University with a prestigious resident presidential scholarship, the institution's highest academic honor reserved for top achievers. In 2021, Tyler proudly filmed himself reading his acceptance letter aloud, his excitement evident as he shared news of the 4-year merit scholarship that would fund his education. His family's pride was unmistakable as they celebrated this achievement. However, beneath the surface of academic success and family stability, subtle changes were beginning to emerge in Tyler's behavior and interests. During his high school years, Tyler's political views appeared to align with his family's conservative Republican values. A former classmate, as reported by CNN, remembered Tyler and his family as die-hard Trump supporters during the 2020 election cycle, actively supporting the president's campaign and sharing in the family's political enthusiasm. This political engagement seemed natural given his parents' involvement in Republican politics and their community's predominantly conservative values. At Utah State University in Logan, he enrolled as a pre-engineering major, taking courses consistent with his academic track record and his apparent interest in technical fields. His professors expected him to excel based on his impressive entrance qualifications and scholarship status. The university environment represented Tyler's first extended time away from his family's close-knit support system. Logan, Utah, located about 4 hours north of his hometown, provided enough distance to experience independence while remaining within the familiar cultural landscape of his upbringing. Initially, Tyler appeared to adapt well to college life and the academic demands of his engineering program. However, Tyler's promising college career proved short-lived. After completing just 1 semester at Utah State University, he made the unexpected decision to take a leave of absence. University officials confirmed that Tyler left the institution in good academic standing, with no disciplinary issues or academic failures prompting his departure. The specific reasons for his decision to leave remained unclear to many who knew him. Tyler's withdrawal from Utah State University marked the beginning of a significant shift in his life trajectory. Instead of returning to complete his degree or transferring to another 4-year institution, Tyler moved back to his family's home in Washington, Utah. Following his departure from Utah State, Tyler enrolled at Dixie Technical College in St. George, a trade school much closer to his family home. He entered the Electrical Apprenticeship Program, a 3-year course designed to prepare students for careers as professional electricians. This career change represented a significant departure from his previous academic trajectory toward engineering. The Electrical Apprenticeship Program at Dixie Technical College provided hands-on training and practical skills development rather than the theoretical, academic approach of university education. Tyler appeared to adapt well to this new educational environment, completing his initial coursework and earning his apprentice electrician license in 2022, which allowed him to work on job sites under supervision while continuing his education. As a 3rd-year student in the program, he was working toward his full journeyman certification while gaining practical experience in the field. During this period, Tyler's living situation became more complex. While he maintained close ties with his family and often stayed at their home, he also rented an apartment in an area complex in St. George. Neighbors at the apartment complex described Tyler as super reclusive, noting that they rarely saw him outside his unit and that he seemed to keep to himself when he was around. Tyler's social life during this transition period appeared limited. Neighbors and acquaintances described him as polite but withdrawn, someone who would acknowledge others when necessary but didn't seek out social interaction. His primary companion appeared to be his roommate, with whom he developed what would later be described as a romantic relationship. The roommate, described by authorities as a biological male transitioning to female, became a significant figure in Tyler's life during this period. According to family members, Tyler's relationship with his roommate coincided with noticeable changes in his political views and social attitudes. Tyler's political evolution represented a dramatic shift from his family's conservative Republican values. While his parents remained active supporters of Donald Trump and conservative causes, Tyler began expressing different viewpoints on political and social issues. This change appeared gradual at first, but became more pronounced over time, creating some tension within the family dynamic. By 2023, Tyler Robinson's metamorphosis from conservative suburban student to politically radical young man was becoming increasingly apparent to those closest to him. The transformation wasn't limited to political beliefs. Tyler's personality also underwent noticeable changes that concerned his family members. The academically focused, goal-oriented young man they had known was being replaced by someone who seemed angry and disconnected from his previous aspirations. Tyler's relationship with his transgender roommate appeared to be a catalyst for many of these changes. Family members observed that Tyler's political evolution coincided with this relationship, though they were careful not to blame his roommate for Tyler's increasingly extreme views. The relationship itself seemed genuine, with authorities later discovering romantic messages between the two that suggested deep emotional connection. Family dinners became increasingly tense as Tyler's views clashed with his relatives' conservative beliefs. During one particularly notable conversation in early 2025, Tyler mentioned that Charlie Kirk would be speaking at Utah Valley University. The discussion that followed revealed the depth of Tyler's anger toward Kirk and other conservative figures, with family members later recalling Tyler's intense criticism of Kirk's views and message. The warning signs of Tyler's increasing radicalization were present but not recognized as dangerous by those around him. His family viewed his political transformation as a phase that young people often experience when exposed to new ideas and perspectives. They assumed that time and maturity would eventually moderate his views and help him find a more balanced approach to political issues. As 2025 progressed, Tyler's focus on conservative media figures like Charlie Kirk intensified, setting the stage for the tragic events that would soon unfold at Utah Valley University. Charlie Kirk's journey from politically engaged teenager to conservative media powerhouse began in Arlington Heights, Illinois, where he was born in 1993 to Republican parents Robert, architect, and Kimberly, mental health counselor. Demonstrating early leadership as an Eagle Scout and political volunteer, he was inspired by Rush Limbaugh's radio show to envision organizing conservative students on college campuses. At age 18 in 2012, Kirk dropped out of Harper College to co-found Turning Point USA with Bill Montgomery, starting from a garage with no resources. His breakthrough came when he secured major funding from donor Foster Friess at the Republican National Convention. Kirk developed his signature Prove Me Wrong campus debate format, which gained millions of online views and established his media presence. Initially skeptical of Trump in 2016, Kirk became the youngest speaker at the Republican National Convention and evolved into a strong Trump ally, working closely with Donald Trump Jr. He positioned Turning Point USA as a key component of Trump's political operation and expanded into media with The Charlie Kirk Show podcast and his book, The MAGA Doctrine. By 2024, Kirk had built a conservative empire. Turning Point USA claimed 3,500 campus chapters, 250,000 members, and $100 million in annual revenue. He married Erica Francevy in 2021, had 2 children, and his influence peaked during Trump's successful 2024 campaign. However, his prominence also made him a target for growing opposition to his conservative message and confrontational style. By 2025, Charlie Kirk had become one of the most recognizable faces of conservative activism in America, but his prominence came with increasing controversy and opposition. His outspoken positions on social issues, particularly regarding LGBTQ+ rights and transgender policies, made him a lightning rod for criticism from progressive activists and students who viewed his message as harmful and divisive. Charlie's opposition to transgender rights was particularly vocal and consistent throughout his career. He regularly argued against allowing transgender athletes to compete in women's sports and strongly opposed gender-affirming medical treatments for minors. During his campus appearances, he frequently called LGBTQ activists the Alphabet Mafia and claimed their movement sought to corrupt children beyond simply seeking marriage equality. These positions resonated strongly with Charlie's conservative base, but generated intense anger among LGBTQ+ advocates and their allies. Progressive students and activists viewed Charlie's rhetoric as contributing to discrimination and violence against transgender individuals. His campus appearances often drew protests and counter-demonstrations from students who opposed his presence. The format of Charlie's campus events, centered around his Prove Me Wrong table, was designed to generate confrontational exchanges with liberal students. While these debates made for compelling social media content, they also created an atmosphere of tension and hostility. Charlie seemed to relish these confrontations, using aggressive questioning from students to demonstrate liberal intolerance and reinforce conservative talking points. Charlie's speaking tour in September 2025, branded as the American Comeback Tour, was scheduled to visit over a dozen colleges and universities following Trump's successful return to the presidency. The tour was intended to capitalize on conservative momentum and recruit new student activists to Turning Point USA's cause. Utah Valley University in Orem was selected as the tour's first stop. The announcement of Charlie's appearance at Utah Valley University generated significant controversy on campus. Progressive students and faculty members organized opposition to his visit, creating an online petition that gathered nearly 1,000 signatures, calling for university administrators to cancel the event. Critics argued that Charlie's presence would create a hostile environment for LGBTQ+ students and promote harmful ideologies. University officials faced pressure from both sides, but ultimately decided to allow Charlie's appearance, citing First Amendment protections and the institution's commitment to free speech. In a statement released before the event, UVU administrators emphasized their dedication to free speech, intellectual inquiry, and constructive dialogue, while acknowledging the controversial nature of Charlie's message. The security arrangements for Charlie's appearance were relatively minimal, reflecting the university's expectation that the event would proceed without serious incident. The open format of the outdoor event, held in a courtyard that could accommodate over 3,000 attendees, was designed to be accessible and welcoming. Charlie himself seemed aware of the controversies surrounding his Utah appearance, posting on social media about the campus opposition to his visit. His tweets included news clips showing the petition against him and asked, "What's going on in Utah?" in a tone that suggested he was both amused and energized by the resistance to his message. Earlier that morning, Tyler Robinson made final preparations for the attack he had been planning for weeks. He woke early in his St. George apartment and methodically gathered the equipment he would need for his assault on Charlie Kirk. The imported Mauser 3006 bolt-action rifle that belonged to his grandfather was cleaned and loaded with specially prepared ammunition. Tyler had spent considerable time engraving cryptic messages on the bullet casings that would be used in his attack. These engravings reflected his immersion in online gaming culture and political messaging, creating a bizarre mix of memes, anti-fascist slogans, and internet references. The messages included, "Hey fascist, catch," along with directional arrows from the video game Helldivers 2, lyrics from the Italian anti-fascist song Bella Ciao, and crude internet jokes as reported by Live Now Fox. Before leaving for Utah Valley University, Tyler wrapped his rifle in a dark towel and carefully planned his route to the campus. The 3.5-hour drive from St. George to Orem gave him time to mentally prepare for what he intended to do. His romantic partner and roommate was unaware of Tyler's plans, though Tyler had left a note under his keyboard that would soon be discovered. Tyler's reconnaissance of Utah Valley University had been thorough, including studying campus maps and identifying potential shooting positions. His choice of the Luzy Center roof provided an elevated position approximately 150 to 200 yards from the courtyard where Charlie Kirk would be speaking. This distance was well within the effective range of his rifle, while providing multiple escape routes. At 8:29 a.m., Tyler arrived on the UVU campus driving his gray Dodge Challenger. Surveillance cameras captured him wearing casual clothing, a maroon t-shirt, light-colored shorts, and a black hat with a white logo. His appearance was unremarkable, allowing him to blend in with other college-age individuals on campus as students and faculty began their daily routines. Tyler's transformation from casual visitor to armed assassin occurred somewhere on the campus, where he changed into dark clothing that would help him avoid detection during his escape. The unusual stiffness in his right leg, noted later by prosecutors, suggested he was concealing the rifle in his pants as he moved through the campus buildings toward his chosen shooting position. At approximately 11:52 a.m., surveillance footage showed Tyler moving through campus stairwells and accessing the roof of the Luzy Center. His movements were deliberate and purposeful, indicating familiarity with the building layout gained through his previous reconnaissance visits. The ease with which he accessed the roof highlighted security vulnerabilities that had not been anticipated. While Tyler was positioning himself for the attack, Charlie Kirk was making final preparations for his Prove Me Wrong event in the courtyard below. Charlie appeared relaxed and enthusiastic, posting on social media about his excitement for the first stop of his American comeback tour. The crowd of approximately 3,000 people was larger than expected, creating an energetic atmosphere. At 12:05 p.m., the crowd gathered in the UVU Fountain courtyard as Charlie's event officially began. Supporters wearing MAGA hats, mixed with curious students and some protesters opposed to Charlie's message. The outdoor setting and informal format created a festival-like atmosphere, with Charlie throwing hats to the crowd before taking his position behind his signature table. Charlie appeared to be enjoying himself as he engaged with the crowd at 12:09 p.m. The early interactions followed his typical format, with students approaching the table to challenge his conservative positions, while he responded with prepared talking points and questions of his own. The exchanges were spirited, but remained within normal parameters for his campus appearances. Unknown to everyone in the courtyard, Tyler Robinson was settling into his shooting position on the Luzy Center roof. He had achieved his desired elevation and clear line of sight to Charlie Kirk, who was clearly visible behind his table, approximately 150 yards away. Tyler's rifle scope provided the magnification needed to ensure accurate shot placement. At exactly 12:23 p.m., Tyler fired a single shot from his concealed position. The bullet struck Charlie Kirk in the neck, causing him to reach up with his right hand as blood began flowing from the wound. The sound of the gunshot created immediate confusion in the crowd, with many initially unsure whether they had heard an actual gunshot or some other loud noise. The reaction in the courtyard was swift and chaotic. Charlie's security team immediately moved to assist him, while attendees began screaming and running for cover. Some witnesses initially thought the sound might have been confetti cannons or pyrotechnics, but the sight of blood quickly confirmed that an actual shooting had occurred. Tyler's escape plan activated immediately after firing his shot. He was captured on surveillance video jumping from the Luzy Center roof and running across the campus grounds toward a wooded area. His movements were athletic and purposeful, suggesting he had rehearsed this escape route during his reconnaissance visits. The crowd's reaction was immediate and intense. Screams filled the air as thousands of attendees realized they were present during an active shooting incident. Some people dropped to the ground seeking cover, while others ran toward campus buildings looking for safety. The open courtyard setting that had seemed welcoming moments earlier now felt dangerously exposed. Emergency medical technicians arrived on scene within minutes of the shooting, but Charlie's injuries were too severe for the life-saving measures they could provide. The bullet had caused massive trauma to vital structures in his neck, resulting in rapid blood loss and compromised breathing. Despite aggressive treatment, Charlie Kirk was pronounced dead at the hospital later that afternoon. Law enforcement response to the shooting was swift but complicated by the confusion surrounding the shooter's location and identity. Campus police and local authorities immediately began searching for the source of the gunshot, while also trying to manage the panic among thousands of witnesses. The elevated position of the sniper made initial location efforts challenging. FBI agents and police chiefs arrived on the scene within 16 minutes of the shooting, demonstrating the rapid federal response to what was clearly a politically motivated assassination. The involvement of federal authorities reflected both the high-profile nature of the victim and the serious national security implications of political violence targeting prominent conservative figures. Initial witness accounts provided varying descriptions of what had occurred, creating challenges for investigators trying to piece together the sequence of events. Some witnesses reported seeing someone on a rooftop, while others focused on the chaos in the courtyard. The traumatic nature of the incident affected the reliability of eyewitness testimony. Multiple 911 calls flooded emergency dispatchers as witnesses reported the shooting from different vantage points around the campus. These recordings, later obtained by investigators, captured the panic and confusion of the moment. Callers reported, "The current speaker just got shot in the head," and described seeing the shot originate from above the railing, above the courtyard. One particularly detailed 911 call came from a witness who saw Charlie being rushed away in a black SUV. The caller reported that Charlie had been and expressed doubt about his chances of survival. The emotional distress in these recordings reflected the trauma experienced by ordinary people who found themselves witnessing political violence. Campus security protocols were immediately activated, with Utah Valley University going into lockdown as authorities searched for the shooter. Students and faculty were directed to shelter in place, while law enforcement swept the campus for threats. The university's emergency notification system sent alerts warning the campus community about the active shooter situation. The search for the shooter led investigators to the wooded area where Tyler Robinson had fled after jumping from the Losey Center roof. Physical evidence left at the scene included footprints, palm prints, and other trace evidence that would later prove crucial in identifying the perpetrator. However, Tyler had successfully escaped the immediate area before law enforcement could establish a perimeter. The president was quickly notified of the assassination of one of his closest allies in the conservative movement. His immediate reaction was one of grief and anger, leading to his decision to order flags flown at half-staff and his promise to award Charlie Kirk the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously. The implications of the assassination were immediately apparent. The investigation's early hours were marked by false leads and mistaken arrests that complicated the search for the actual perpetrator. 2 individuals were detained and questioned before being released when investigators determined they had no connection to the shooting. These mistakes highlighted the pressure law enforcement faced to quickly apprehend the assassin. As news of Charlie Kirk's assassination spread across social media and traditional news outlets, the political reaction was swift and intense. Conservative leaders immediately condemned the violence while calling for enhanced security measures for political figures. The shooting represented the latest escalation in America's ongoing crisis of political violence. Before we go deeper into the investigation, take a moment to subscribe to No Way Out. Here we bring you the real cases, the real consequences, and the stories of people who crossed a line they could never return from. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, but please keep them respectful. This case involves real people, real grief, and a family that has lost someone they loved. Now, let's continue with the story. Within hours of Charlie Kirk's assassination, law enforcement agencies launched one of the most intensive manhunts in recent Utah history. The FBI's Salt Lake City field office took the lead in coordinating the investigation. working closely with Utah state authorities and local police departments to track down the shooter who had escaped from the Utah Valley University campus. FBI Director Kash Patel personally traveled to Utah to oversee the investigation, demonstrating the federal government's commitment to solving this high-profile political assassination. Patel's presence brought additional resources and expertise to the search, while also creating media attention that both helped and complicated the investigation efforts. The initial challenge facing investigators was identifying the shooter from the limited evidence available at the scene. Surveillance cameras had captured footage of a person fleeing the rooftop area after the shooting, but the individual's face was partially concealed by sunglasses and a baseball cap. The clothing, a black t-shirt featuring an eagle and American flag design, provided some identifying details. Forensic teams working at the shooting scene on the Luzy Center roof collected crucial physical evidence that would eventually help identify the perpetrator. Investigators found shoe impressions, palm prints, and a forearm imprint left someone who had been lying in a shooting position. These trace evidence samples would prove vital once they had a suspect for comparison. The recovery of the murder weapon represented a significant breakthrough in the investigation. Law enforcement officers searching the wooded area where the shooter had fled discovered a Mauser .30-06 caliber bolt-action rifle wrapped in a dark towel. The weapon's distinctive characteristics and the manner in which it was concealed provided important clues about the perpetrator's planning and preparation. The bullet casings found with the recovered rifle contained the cryptic engravings that Tyler Robinson had carefully carved before the attack. These messages puzzled investigators initially, but would later provide insight into the shooter's mindset and online influences. FBI analysts worked around the clock to enhance the surveillance footage and photographs captured during the shooter's escape. Advanced image processing techniques were used to improve the clarity of the suspect's appearance, though his partial disguise continued to complicate identification efforts. Every frame of available video was scrutinized for additional clues. The investigation team established a tip line and offered a reward of up to $100,000 for information leading to the arrest of the shooter. This announcement generated an immediate response from the public, with over 11,000 tips and leads pouring in during the first few days of the investigation. Each lead required evaluation and follow-up, straining investigative resources. Law enforcement agencies conducted nearly 200 interviews during the first 48 hours of the investigation, speaking with witnesses, university personnel, and anyone who might have relevant information about the shooting. These interviews provided a detailed timeline of events, but initially failed to identify the perpetrator. The pressure to solve the case quickly was intense, coming from leaders, media outlets, and the public. The assassination of such a prominent conservative figure had created national outrage and demands for swift justice. However, investigators were careful to follow proper procedures to ensure any eventual prosecution would be successful. On the evening of September 11, 2025, more than 30 hours after Charlie Kirk's assassination, the break investigators desperately needed came from an unexpected source. Tyler Robinson's father was watching news coverage of the manhunt when FBI surveillance photos of the suspected shooter appeared on his television screen, leading to a moment of horrifying recognition. The enhanced photographs released by the FBI showed the suspect's partial face, despite his sunglasses and baseball cap disguise. While thousands of people had seen these images, Tyler's father possessed the intimate knowledge of his son's appearance and mannerisms that allowed him to see through the disguise that had fooled everyone else. The moment of recognition was devastating for Tyler's father, who had raised his son in a loving household and never imagined he could be capable of political violence. The man in the surveillance photos matched Tyler's build, clothing style, and distinctive posture in ways that seemed too specific to be coincidental. The father's worst fears were beginning to crystallize. Rather than immediately contacting authorities, Tyler's father chose to confront his son directly about what he had observed. This decision reflected his hope that there might be some explanation for the resemblance, or that Tyler could convince him that his suspicions were unfounded. As reported by CNN US, when Tyler's father approached him with the surveillance photos, asking Tyler, "Is this you? This looks like you," Tyler's response confirmed his worst fears. Rather than expressing surprise or denial, Tyler admitted that the person in the photographs was indeed him. This confession represented the first acknowledgement that Tyler had carried out the assassination. Tyler's initial response to his father's urging that he surrender to authorities was defiant and concerning. "I would rather kill myself than turn myself in," Tyler told his father, raising immediate fears about his mental state and the possibility that he might harm himself rather than face justice for his actions. The father's relationship with his son and his understanding of Tyler's emotional state allowed him to navigate this critical conversation carefully. Rather than pressuring Tyler directly or threatening to turn him in immediately, the father worked to convince Tyler to speak with a trusted third party who might help him make the right decision. The involvement of a youth pastor who worked with the Washington County Sheriff's Office proved crucial in convincing Tyler to surrender peacefully. This pastor, who had relationships with both the Robinson family and law enforcement, was able to serve as an intermediary who could speak Tyler's language while also ensuring that authorities were properly notified. During his conversation with the pastor, Tyler provided additional details about his actions and motivations that would later prove important to investigators. Law enforcement officials were notified that Tyler was willing to surrender, but remained concerned about his mental state and the possibility that he might change his mind. The coordination between local, state, and federal authorities required careful planning to ensure that Tyler's arrest would be conducted safely and legally. At approximately 10 p.m. on September 11, 2025, Tyler Robinson arrived at the Washington County Sheriff's Office in Hurricane, Utah, accompanied by his father and a family friend who had helped facilitate his surrender. The Washington County Sheriff's Office immediately notified the FBI and other agencies involved in the manhunt that Tyler Robinson was in custody. This communication triggered a coordinated response as federal agents and state investigators prepared to assume custody of the suspect and begin the formal interrogation process. Tyler was initially held in the back offices of the sheriff's office, while arrangements were made for his transfer to federal custody. This brief period allowed local authorities to complete initial booking procedures while ensuring that Tyler remained secure and under constant supervision until FBI agents could arrive to take control of the situation. The arrival of FBI agents just before 6 a.m. on September 12th marked the official beginning of federal involvement in Tyler's custody and interrogation. The transfer was conducted smoothly, with Tyler showing no resistance to the change in his custodial situation. His cooperation during this phase suggested that he understood the seriousness of his situation. President Donald Trump announced Tyler's capture during a Friday morning appearance on Fox and Friends, telling viewers that authorities had apprehended the suspected shooter with a high degree of certainty. Trump's announcement came even before official law enforcement briefings, demonstrating his close monitoring of the investigation and his personal investment in seeing justice served. Utah Governor Spencer Cox held a press conference later that morning to provide official confirmation of Tyler's arrest and to thank the family members who had facilitated his surrender. Cox's comments emphasized that Tyler's family had done the right thing by encouraging him to turn himself in rather than attempting to protect him from law enforcement. FBI Director Kash Patel, who had personally traveled to Utah to oversee the investigation, praised the rapid resolution of the manhunt during the press conference. Patel highlighted that Tyler's capture had occurred within 33 hours of the shooting, describing this as a historic timeframe for solving such a complex case. Tyler's arrest marked the beginning of a new phase in the case, shifting focus from identifying and apprehending the perpetrator to building a prosecution case that could secure conviction and appropriate punishment. The evidence collected during the manhunt would need to be carefully preserved and analyzed to support the serious charges that Tyler would face. The relief felt by Charlie Kirk's family and supporters was evident as news of Tyler's arrest spread through social media and traditional news outlets. However, this satisfaction was tempered by the recognition that Tyler's capture could not bring Charlie back or undo the trauma experienced by those who witnessed his assassination. As Tyler was transported to the Utah County Jail to begin his formal incarceration, the investigation shifted toward understanding his motivations and determining whether he had received assistance from others in planning or carrying out the attack. The information Tyler had provided during his surrender would be crucial in guiding these next steps. On September 16, 2025, Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray announced the formal charges against Tyler Robinson in a press conference that detailed the scope of the prosecution's case and their intent to seek the death penalty. The charging document represented the culmination of intensive investigation work and established the legal framework for what would become one of Utah's most significant death penalty cases. Tyler was formally charged with aggravated murder in the first degree, the most serious homicide charge available under Utah law. This charge reflected the premeditated nature of Charlie Kirk's assassination and the political motivation that had driven Tyler to carry out his attack. The aggravated murder charge made Tyler eligible for the death penalty under Utah's capital punishment statutes. Additional charges included felony discharge of a firearm causing serious bodily injury, which carried a potential sentence of 5 years to life in prison. This charge addressed the specific use of the rifle in committing the murder and established the dangerous nature of Tyler's weapon choice and his deliberate decision to use lethal force. 2 counts of obstruction of justice were filed against Tyler for his attempts to conceal evidence of his crime. These charges related to his disposal of the murder weapon in the wooded area and his discarding of clothing worn during the attack. The obstruction charges demonstrated Tyler's consciousness of guilt and his efforts to avoid detection. The prosecution also filed 2 counts of witness tampering, reflecting Tyler's instructions to his roommate to delete text messages and remain silent about their communications. These charges showed Tyler's awareness that his digital communications could be used as evidence against him and his attempts to destroy potentially incriminating material. The witness tampering charges stem from specific instructions Tyler gave to his roommate immediately after the shooting. According to court documents, Tyler sent explicit directions stating, "Don't talk to the media, please. Don't take any interviews or make any comments. If any police ask you questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent." These communications demonstrated Tyler's calculated effort to prevent his roommate from cooperating with law enforcement investigations. The charges reflect 2 distinct forms of obstruction. First, Tyler's instruction to delete their text message exchanges that contained incriminating evidence about his planning and execution of the attack. And second, his directive that his roommate refuse to speak with investigators. Utah County Attorney Jeff Gray emphasized that these actions showed Tyler's sophisticated understanding of criminal investigations and his immediate recognition that their digital communications contained evidence that could be used against him in court. The roommate ultimately became a crucial witness for the prosecution rather than remaining silent as Tyler had instructed. Their cooperation provided investigators with the text messages in which Tyler confessed to the shooting, discussed his planning process, and revealed his motivations. The roommate also led police to the note Tyler had left under his keyboard stating, "I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it." These witness tampering charges carry significant legal weight as they demonstrate consciousness of guilt and systematic attempts to obstruct justice, supporting prosecutors' arguments that Tyler's actions were premeditated and that he understood the criminal nature of his conduct. Prosecutor Jeff Gray emphasized that his decision to seek the death penalty was made independently and based solely on the evidence and circumstances of the crime. Gray noted that he did not take this decision lightly. and had carefully considered the factors that justified pursuing the ultimate penalty available under Utah law. The charging documents revealed additional details about Tyler's actions and motivations that had not previously been made public. New information about his romantic relationship with his transgender roommate provided context for understanding his political evolution and his specific anger toward Charlie Kirk's anti-LGBTQ+ positions. Tyler's confession to his romantic partner through text messages was detailed in the charging documents, including his statement that he had enough of Kirk's hatred and that some hate can't be negotiated out. These admissions provided direct evidence of Tyler's motive and his belief that violence was justified in response to political disagreement. The financial aspects of Tyler's case became relevant as the court determined that he qualified as indigent and would require appointed counsel. However, the complexity of death penalty representation in Utah meant that finding qualified attorneys willing and able to handle such a case would take additional time and coordination. Tyler's first court appearance was conducted virtually from the Utah County Jail, where he appeared wearing a suicide prevention smock designed to prevent self-harm. His demeanor during the hearing was described as emotionless and detached, showing no visible reaction as the charges against him were read. The scheduling of Tyler's next court appearance for September 29, 2025, provided time for the appointment of qualified counsel and the beginning of discovery proceedings. Defense attorneys would need substantial time to review the extensive evidence collected against Tyler and develop their strategy for avoiding a death sentence. As Tyler Robinson's case moved through the legal system in late 2025, legal experts and observers increasingly viewed his execution as virtually inevitable, despite the best efforts that his defense team would undoubtedly mount. The convergence of legal factors, political pressure, and historical precedent created a situation where Tyler's youth and lack of prior criminal history would prove insufficient to save his life. The political assassination aspect of Tyler's crime placed him in a category of defendants who historically receive little sympathy from juries and judges. Courts have consistently viewed attacks on political figures as strikes against democracy itself, warranting the ultimate penalty. The 1995 execution of Timothy McVeigh for the Oklahoma City bombing, though involving different methods, established clear precedent that politically motivated mass violence demands the death penalty. Tyler's case bears striking similarities to Jared Lee Lohner's 2011 assassination attempt on Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, though Lohner avoided execution only through a plea agreement that accepted life imprisonment. However, Lohner's severe mental illness provided mitigation that Tyler's case lacks. Tyler's careful planning and rational behavior before and after the shooting demonstrate legal competency that will make mental health defenses largely ineffective. The historical precedent of John Wilkes Booth's assassination of President Lincoln, while occurring in a different legal era, established the American tradition of viewing political assassination as among the most serious crimes possible. More recent cases, like the execution of conspirators in President Kennedy's assassination attempts, have reinforced this principle, though those cases involve different circumstances and legal frameworks. Tyler's defense team will likely pursue several standard strategies that have proven unsuccessful in similar political assassination cases. Claims of mental illness will be undermined by Tyler's extensive planning, his academic competence, and his ability to function normally in daily life. His careful preparation of engraved bullets and methodical reconnaissance demonstrate cognitive abilities incompatible with insanity defenses. Arguments about Tyler's youth and lack of criminal history, while potentially compelling in other contexts, carry little weight in political assassination cases. The Supreme Court's decision in Roper v. Simmons prohibited execution of defendants under 18, but Tyler's age of 22 places him well beyond this protection. Courts have consistently rejected youth as mitigation in cases involving sophisticated planning and political motivation. The defense will likely emphasize Tyler's relationship with his transgender roommate and his political evolution as evidence of external influence or manipulation. However, this strategy risks backfiring by reinforcing prosecution arguments about political motivation, while potentially alienating conservative jurors who view such relationships unfavorably. The personal nature of Tyler's political transformation actually strengthens the case for premeditation. Tyler's academic achievements and previously clean record will be presented as evidence of his capacity for rehabilitation and contribution to society. However, these same achievements work against him by demonstrating his intelligence and ability to make rational choices. Courts have consistently held that educated defendants bear greater responsibility for their criminal choices than those with limited cognitive abilities. As Tyler Robinson awaited trial in the Utah County Jail, knowing that legal precedent and political reality made his execution virtually certain, his case continued to generate debate about the fundamental questions facing American democracy. As this story comes to a close, our team and I are deeply saddened by this loss. Our hearts go out to the family, friends, and supporters of Charlie Kirk. No matter where one stands on politics, a human life has been cut short, and those closest to him now face a grief that is beyond measure. In this trying time, we wish them comfort, strength, and the Almighty's succor as they navigate the days ahead. Cases like this remind us that violence leaves behind more than headlines. It leaves behind grieving, partners, children, parents, friends, and communities forever marked by tragedy. Please keep your comments respectful. Let this space be one of empathy and thoughtful discussion, not division. If you want to see more real stories of crime, justice, and the people who reach a point of no return, make sure you're subscribed to No Way Out. Turn on notifications so you never miss a deep look into the cases that shape our world. Real cases, real consequences. This is No Way Out.